Hello and welcome to another Demis Hellen tutorial. Today's video we're going to look at compression and we're going to look at all the parameters in a little bit more depth, or should we say the main parameters, and we'll just see what they do and how they work with each other to kind of alleviate some of the confusion that people do have when it comes to compression. Me included, when I was a lot younger, you just thought you needed to throw it on everything, and the answer to that question is you don't have to put it on every single track. So i.e., if you're pulling something out of a sample pack, a drum loop, the chances are it's heavily compressed and processed anyway. These are professionals, they're throwing stuff out there that you can use straight out of the box. So you wouldn't need to use a compressor there essentially. So compression is not needed on all tracks, not whatsoever. But the main things you need to focus on when you're doing compression is analyse what sound you want to compress. So vocals are going to be different to bass, leads are going to be different to a kick drum, etc. But we'll use a melody line here as an example, which is this. And we're going to look at the threshold and the ratio. We're going to look at the attack and the release, the knee, and the gain or makeup gain on certain compressors. So these features you'll always find. Sometimes you'll find threshold and ratio combined into one rotary knob. There's all different ones out there, but this is the standard kind of outline of a compressor, these settings. So let's have a look at how they work together. The threshold is the first starting point. So the threshold, if you look at this dotted line at the top here, as I decrease the threshold, it's lowering the ceiling. So the ceiling is where the compressor starts. So that's all it does. It tells the rest of the parameters, right, start compressing. So if we play this sound, we'll just set a ratio so it works. I'll explain that in a second. As you can see, no compression is being applied because the roof is here. No peaks are reaching that roof. As soon as they reach that roof, they start reducing them. So what is happening is the compressor is now saying, right, I need to apply this setting here, this one, all of these settings. What's happening? I've got to do that. So that ceiling is determining what is happening. So if we leave that there at -15, -16 there, and move on to the ratio to explain how things are working. So the threshold, is reducing the dynamic range. So it's essentially working with everything else. It's going over the threshold, it's starting to reduce its volume, and that's where ratio comes in. So if we have that set 2:1 there, every 2 decibels that hit over that ceiling, so let's just bring the ceiling back up for a visual. Every time a peak goes over there, for every 2 decibels it goes over, it's reduced to 1 decibel. So that's classed as soft compression, easy compression. So that's like the more transparent stuff. If you suddenly crank it up to 20:1, for every 20 decibels that is hitting over that threshold, it's reduced to 1. So it's really hard compression as it's described. So you have the two. They both have their uses, but hard compression is more aimed at really quick sounds, so say like a kick drum or a snare drum, or maybe even a fast rapper or something like that. There's all different ways that you can use compression. There's no set rule in this. So essentially that's how it's reducing the volume, and that's reducing the dynamic range, which reduces the volume. So as a demonstration, let's put this back to 15. So it's reducing those peaks every 2 decibels to 1. Now if we throw it up there, you can see it's creating more reduction, because for every 8 decibels there, so it's 8.8, so 9 decibels it's going over, it's reducing it to 1. So you're having a reduction of 8 dB. Now that's all good and well. You can understand how that is relating to the threshold, but that's where makeup gain comes in, and we'll look at that in a little bit later. It's as it says, it makes the gain back up, because you're reducing it, it's making it back up. Right, so we'll leave that at a 2:1 for now, because it sounds quite nice. The attack. Now the attack determines how fast the compressor starts. So the ratio is telling you how hard the compressor starts. So the threshold's going, right, apply soft compression at a fast attack or a slow attack, and a fast release or a slow release. So as it says. If it's a fast attack, the compressor is going to act absolutely immediately to 0.0005 of a millisecond. If you put it to slow, it's going to take 250 milliseconds to reach the desired ratio and threshold. So this particular sound is quite bubbly. It's not too sharp, it's quite soft, so I'm going to have a fairly fast attack but not too fast. If you look at how it's working, you can see there's like a little bit of a curve down from 0 dB, so it's the compressor's working a bit slower. If we turn it right up to slow, it's not really capturing anything because it's taking too long for the compressor to even think about starting to apply compression. So it's not practical in this scenario. So I want to capture them relatively fast, at around 5 milliseconds. And then the release is exactly the opposite of attack. It's how quickly and slowly it returns to 0. So it's wanting to reach 0 straight away. As you can see, it's quite quick. If we turn this up, it's not letting that compressor reach 0. It's constantly going too slow to release it back to 0. So that works for, say, if I just stop the sound now, it creates a nice rise back to 0. Whereas if we have a fast attack, it's instantly back at 0. So I'm going to have a medium release. That sounds quite nice. Okay, so in relation to the ratio and threshold, if you remember, the ratio is telling you how hard, the threshold is telling you when. The attack is telling how fast, and the release is telling you how fast to return back to the original setting before compression started. Now, if we look at the knee, which does confuse some people, is we have hard knee and soft knee. And what is the difference? So the hard knee is how the ratio is set. So everything is applied as you've set it. The threshold, the ratio, the attack, the release. It's all applied like that as soon as it hits that threshold. So you can see there's a kink in there. So as soon as the volume hits there, it's applying that compression straight away. Now, slow or a soft knee is more gradual and applies the ratio just a little bit before the threshold. So it's like looking ahead, essentially, at the sound and applying it slowly up to the point where you've set the compression. So if you listen, so you can tell it's looking ahead and it's going, right, slowly start applying it way before that compression is set. So there it's hitting straight away. There it's taking a while before it hits. If I just up the threshold here, you can see the knees hitting straight away. Turn it to softer, it's actually starting to apply it here and then slowly over to here. So it's taking quite a long time to get to that top setting which you have set on the compression. So the uses for hard and soft knee. Hard knee can be used on quick transients like hat loops and fast rapping, for example. Soft could be for vocals, it could be for pads and strings. They all have the uses. Usually I have mine set just in the middle, that's how it comes, and then you kind of move it about to taste. No initial preset, no certain way to do it for certain sounds. It depends on what you're making and how creative you're being. Finally, makeup gain. So if you're reducing, say you're reducing the whole sound by 20 dB, you're going to get a considerably quiet sound. So let's crank this threshold up. So we're getting a lot of reduction. You can see here we're getting a minus 11 to 12 reduction. And the output sound compared to the input is shocking. Obviously it's overcompressed, don't do this. But if we start to turn this up, you can see the volume rising back up. And I've raised it by 8 there, and it's near enough back to where it was. So if we just put it down to 11. So we're at 11, we return back to the volume that we initially started with. And as you can hear, the higher sounds, so the peaks, are taking over the lower end, so the lower end is being pushed away because there's so much dynamic range. So we crush it, and everything down below, including all the delay and the reverb, starts to be pushed out. That's how it sounds because the peaks have been squashed and everything becomes closer together and the sound becomes more full. And then we've obviously used makeup gain there to return it to that volume. Now usually you probably set it to auto and it'll return it as you crush it. It'll just balance that audio out for you all the time. And that's it. That is compression. There is not much more to say on it because that is essentially how it's working. So as a quick recap, we have the threshold. Now that's the ceiling of when the compressor starts. The ratio is how hard or soft the compression is once it reaches the threshold. The attack is telling you how fast. The release is telling you how fast to return back to zero. The knee is determining how fast the ratio is applied. And the gain, makeup gain, is raising the volume back up as it says makeup gain. You can have that set to auto or do it manually. That is it. That is all there is to compression. I'll probably show you how to apply it maybe to different sounds. So for example, let's just put that down there so we're not having clipping because we don't want that. If we look at the kick drum, for example, I just need to see which one it is. It's that one. As you can see with the kick drum, we've got a fairly shallow threshold. The ratio is quite high, so we've got 3:1. A fairly quick attack because I want to capture the click a little bit. I don't want to smash that click down. Fairly medium-ish release with a near enough hard knee there. And then the makeup gain is applied to taste. That's an example there. So maybe in future videos I will look at applying it to the bass line, to synth lines, to vocals, to effects, whatever you need to see. So if you like this video, please share your comments down below. If you haven't already, click subscribe and hit the bell so you know when I'm uploading every Thursday. And yeah, just tell me what you think of the video down below. I'm always on Facebook. Ask me any questions and I'll be happy to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I will do my research and we'll make a new video. So thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.